When I was home recently, I went and I visited my childhood house. I knocked on the door and I asked to come inside to, see it. It was very interesting. And they just slammed the door in my face. My parents, geez, they could be bad.
Ha! I see
But
that you've grown
but
some facial hair there. I wasn't so much
I,
into I wasn't so much into it, but it grew on me.
it grew on you. My facial hair grew on you. Oh, that's interesting. That's not a topic for today, I don't think. Warning: this podcast may cause excessive dad jokes, sudden bursts of motivation, and the irresistible urge to high five yourself.
Welcome to the Daddius Project, where we help dads master the biggest and messiest project of your life, dadhood.
I'm Scott Batcher, recovering perfectionist, dad of one teenage girl, and a guy who once didn't sleep for 6 months straight.
And I'm Evan Hill, professional chaos coordinator, dad of 3 teenagers, and living proof that duct tape can fix a sippy cup temporarily.
Each week, we'll hit you with real talk, dad hacks, and the kind of inspiration that doesn't require matching socks.
Ready to level up? Let's build this dad life together. We could start off with like, hey dads, it's Daddius Project Podcast. Your host, Dr. Evan, and this is my co-host, Dr. Scott. Today we're going to be talking about, you do that.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I'm talking about that I don't want to do. That's exactly what I just said I don't want to do. So we're just figuring out how to start this. And I think dads out there like these bloopers. I think that's going to be one of the fun parts about the show. So I think we're going to leave that in there to start today's podcast. And today we're going to dive into P3. So we've been, if you're recapping here, we've done P1, P2, we've done power and performance, big vision, and health. And now we're going to dive into the reason why you probably found the show in the first place is parenting. P3, the reason why you're here, the reason why you're a dad, the reason why this show exists is P3 parenting. So, Ev, how's your week been, mate?
Wait, that was more of an automatic
Whoa.
question. Answer. That was more of an automatic answer.
Yes, it was.
It
Yes, it
was.
was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's different actually. So my 2 older kids, I have 3 kids. 2 of them have gone on a class trip to Mexico City.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they got on a flight and with their class, and they're in Mexico City right now. And it's just my wife and I and our youngest. And
Wow.
so
Um,
mixed feelings.
am I mistaken? Like Mexico City is like one of the highest kind of get murdered, get kidnapped kind of cities in the world.
Yeah. They've done the trip before. I'm hoping that they have everything like this. Not our kids have not done the trip before, but the school has done the trip every year, and so they have a whole system in place, and the right places to go to. Apparently, like we really trust the school, so um, but like Mexico City, in my mind, is definitely a higher crime rate than where we're used to being. So I think that, and I didn't even really have that top of mind. It was just what was more top of mind is how I was feeling about my kids being gone, even though it's not a very long time. It's only till Friday, and today's Monday. They left Sunday. Um, it's just it's an adjustment to not have both of them around, and it's a prequel to them leaving. They're going to be leaving after next year, and it's going to be us with our youngest. And so we're all dealing with this reality of our little community is going to be in different parts of the world, and we're not all going to be together every night. And we, our ritual is that we all sit down, we all eat dinner together, and we share stories, and it's just nonstop chatter, it's nonstop talking and debating, and like it's there's laughing, there's tears, there's like our dinner time is the sacred time, and we all clean up together, and it's a good solid couple hours where we're all together every day, and it's amazing. And then last night we didn't have that, and it was like there's just this feeling of like loss, even though I'm excited about the next chapter of their life and I want them to go out um, and experience life, and spread their wings, and fly the nest, leave. I want that for them. But there's also this experience of loss that is coming, and I'm trying not to like think about it. It's like, okay, I'm feeling that, and it's not here right now as a permanent thing, but I know it's coming, and it's not that far away. It's going to be about a year from now that that happens. Um, so yeah, it's again, it's a lesson in really, like every parent hears this, but like it's like the blink of an eye, right? And then all of a sudden your kid is like grown up and leaving, and it just feels like the blink of an eye. And to really to be really present and to seize the moment each day of as much as you can with building that relationship, and um, developing memories with them and spending time with them, and really at the end of the day, like that period of time looking back and not having any regrets.
Mm. Yeah, I know what you're saying. When I was home recently, um, I went and I visited my childhood house. I knocked on the door and I asked to come inside to, see it. It was very interesting. And what, they just slammed the door in my face. My parents, geez, they could be bad.
Ha! I see that
But
you've grown
but
some facial hair there. I wasn't so much into it, but it grew on me.
it grew on you. My facial hair grew on you. Oh, that's interesting. That's not a topic for today, I don't think. But yes, back to your euphemisms, or I don't even know what that word even means. It kind of seemed to fit there. But fly the nest and spread your wings and all those terms you used. My daughter, yeah, her birthday was this past weekend, so she's turned 15. So she's not quite ready to fly the coop, but it does go in a blink of an eye, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Is this idea of parenting, and by the point where we're at, of course we still have a ton of influence, but just kind of like, this is when they're starting to explore the world in ways where we do not have direct contact or influence, and we hope we've done a good enough job that we've taught them the lessons that they're going to continuously learn lessons. Like I think back to my 15th year of life, and I go, um, I hope my daughter doesn't get up to what I was getting up to at that age. Um, yeah, but I mean, I guess I turned out okay. So it's a very experimental kind of age, and hopefully we just taught them the right lessons.
Yeah, and I think parenting, when we talk about P3 and parenting, um, one of the questions that we ask in the book is, would you want your would you want your child to turn out like you?
Mm.
it's a very in the face you question, and you talk about the lessons we've taught them, the lessons by that time that they're age 15. And hopefully, we taught them the right lessons and so on. And it's very interesting that the lessons that we've taught them is really a product of who we've been being. It's not like we sit down our kids and just teach them like a teacher teaches a student. It's not like that. Like they're just
No.
sponges and they're watching us every single day. And our habits is what they're going to be taking in. And it's like it's more like I hope I've been the right role model for them to be successful in life, and to, 'cause that's really what it's about. Like they're taking in everything that we're teaching them, and that to them is like that's the normal. And then they get to 15 and they start to explore outside of the home and get influenced more with their peers, and it does happen a little bit earlier in that, but um yeah, we really parenting and the way we talk about it in this book, just like the other chapters, it really is an inside job. And the most important work that we do as a dad is the work we do on ourselves,
Hmm.
right? And so in a way, it's like it's almost less complicated when you think about it that way than trying to figure out how to do everything from a strategy standpoint, and what to do for this situation, what to do that for that situation. It's really being about like optimizing your own personal response, about and like where you're coming from and who you're being, and it's like you focus on those things. That's a huge part of parenting.
Yeah, and if you take a step back and think about your relationship with your own father, right? Because we just talked about how modeling is the way our kids learn. And if we think about the lessons we've learned from our own parents, um, yeah, it wasn't a sit down lesson. It wasn't like a school project. It was hard knocks of life. And for a lot of us, from our past experience in the dad space, is a lot of dads did not have great relationships with their own dads, and so the modeling could come as a almost an anti-modeling, where you might say to yourself, I definitely don't want to be that way with my kids. So yeah, looking at your relationship with your own dad is super, super interesting as far as, what lessons you learned from him growing up. For me, um, in retrospect, looking back, my dad was not a very, I'll say, loving dad. I could probably count on one hand the amount of times he told me he loved me. And when I look back, I remember my grandfather, his father, and that's the way he was raised. And so it was sort of a mold that was set. But I said to myself, there's no way that's going to be the case. And I can't think of a day where I haven't told my daughter I've loved her 5 times a day, every single day of her life. And she says it back to me,
Yeah,
she actually says it more than I do, still at 15. I thought that would
yeah,
have been long gone by now, but she
yeah,
still does that. And so, these are, the small dad moments that I'm proud of.
yeah. That's a great thing. That's a great thing that you've consciously cultivated in your relationship. And um, yeah, what a beautiful connection that you've created there. I mean, that's amazing. At 15, for her to be, expressing like that. And so yeah, well done on that, Dad. And
Mm.
and and I can relate. The same, I think it was really our generation of, uh, and the generation before that, that was really the case. It was definitely more of like an authoritarian type model, and disconnection. Love was, like, I'm sure, like for me, I learned after my dad died that my dad talked about me and loved me, um, with all of his friends, and but like I didn't really know. It's so weird to say that, it's
Mm,
like what a crazy way to grow up, and especially like it's a bit, it's too late when the parent has died to really know from them, because you're not hearing it from them.
mm,
And so it was more like assessing the memories I have with him, and like looking at what people had told me about what he had said about me, and then putting it together and like finding the clues, and also understanding love language and what his upbringing was like, and putting it all together and realizing like, yeah, he really loved me. He didn't have a way of really, maybe he didn't feel comfortable, because imagine you grow up your whole life and you never hear I love you as being a child, and then turning around and saying it to your child and thinking like, oh, that's kind of weird. It's kind of like, some dads give their sons kisses because that's culturally what they do. They do the daughters and the sons, they give them both kisses. And if that's not something that you experienced, getting kisses from your dad, chances are you're probably not going to be giving your son kisses, and then that's going to get passed down. But is it really a bad thing to be giving your son kisses? Is it really a bad thing to be saying to your son, I love you, or your daughter? No, it's like this is an expression of love. And in many cultures, like, absolutely 100% normal. But if you didn't grow up like that, then it kind of like it leaves this space of not knowing, and it just really, communication, those words I love you are so important. And that's a great example of looking at what it is that we grew up with, and deciding, am I going to, is that how I'm going to be, you know and that's a big part of being a parent.
yeah, I think, I'm sure digging deep enough, there would be some kind of positive aspect to most people's parenting. Like in some cases, absolutely horrendous. I get that. But often that may be the impetus for a person to have their life be amazing in the future. And I've heard that so often where things happen to you, and sometimes it's not your fault, but it's always your responsibility to do something about it. That responsibility comes back to you, and in the role of parenting, I think it's super important that certain things are achieved. If back to the I love yous. If you hear this as a dad and you're like, huh, I never tell my kids I love them. Give it a go. See how it works. There's so much more than words, though, right? You need to, one, mean it, um, and you need to show them, right? So in the book, we go into roughhousing as well, right? And that's a thing that dads are incredible at. In our old podcast, the Wake Up Dad Show, we actually interviewed a guy, and his name's escaping me. You might remember, who wrote a book on raising boys, and he talks about the importance of roughhousing. So we went in and did some of the research on it, and mums aren't really roughhousing kind of people. Um, but us wrestling with the kids and picking them up and throwing them on the couch or throwing them on the bed and pillow fights and all that kind of stuff is actually not just us being silly, dumb dads, but it's us creating connection and bonds with our children. And it's super important to do that so that they can explore the space that they're in. And, it helps them understand more about who they are. Do you remember who that was? Can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. He wrote the book called The Boy Crisis. I remember that. Um, and I don't, the name is also escaping me. See if it comes.
We'll probably get him
Um,
on again in this
yeah,
new
he's that guy.
latest and greatest updated version of the Wake Up Dad show called the Daddies Project.
That's right. Yeah, and when this topic's super important because one of the most important things as a child is, and as a human being, is to feel loved and to be able to express love. Like, imagine, and there may be some people listening right now that didn't feel loved, even though they were loved and they didn't know it. And that can really hurt, to have a story, to have a belief that we weren't loved. And I held that belief until I did the work and really looked at it closely. But that can really hurt, and it can set us off on looking for love in ways that aren't really love at all. It's just attention, and and that can take people down a path that can be destructive, because there are people that are preying on people that don't have that foundation, and and so that simple thing of like what we're talking about is being able to express it to our kids, and and like you said, Scott, obviously it needs to be genuine. And then what this does is it when somebody is feeling love, and they feel love in their lives, it's like it's a massive check mark in in human existence, and one of the most important things in life. It's what people strive for, and and then being able to pass that on, to other people. But just knowing they're loved is an amazing foundational piece for humans to have, and sets the stage for a lot of healthy habits, versus if somebody is is feeling like they're not loved. So it's a massive, massive part of the conversation of parenting.
Yeah, there's some research done. I mean, it's very obvious that abuse is bad, right? In so many ways, and it sets up a whole cycle, right? Like if you're abused as a kid, then the likelihood of you abusing as an adult, I don't know exactly what the stats are, but is significantly higher. But there's something that's even worse than abuse, shown from a perspective of with babies, and that's neglect, right? Neglect is where the kids will try to get your attention with anything. And that's sometimes a reason, even if they're not actually being neglected, if they feel like they're being neglected, they're going to reach out with bad behaviors, because with that bad behavior comes not a neglect anymore, even though it could be a severe punishment or bad retribution or whatever the case might be. But So we talk about connection and how important that is, and connecting on some type of daily basis. And you said it so well with dinner time for you guys is so incredibly special as a family, and it doesn't have to be that, and it doesn't have to be 2 hours. Like you can connect with your kids in such a short period of time, as long as it's super proper one-on-one. Put your phone down, right? I think we're all guilty of this, including me. We talk about Daddius as being this super dad. We'll say it 1,000 times during this podcast. Myself and Ev do not profess to be Daddius in any way. We are trying our best as well, and we falter and slip often, but we have each other to try to hold each other accountable a bit, as being the best we can be. So super important to connect, right? And myself and my daughter have ways to connect, and one that's happening right now is from a very in the day prospect is the NHL playoffs. Love it. And took my daughter to we went to Canada last year, and just happened to randomly take her to a Montreal Canadiens game, more because I wanted to go and we were there. So it's like, oh, expose her to some ice hockey. And she absolutely fell in love with it. She's watched every single Montreal Canadiens game since that time, a year and a half ago. For her birthday, she wanted the NHL app so that she could watch all the full games. Yeah, absolutely loves it. And so, we're in the throes of the semifinals right now. We've got one Canadian team left. Go Oilers. I don't really like the Oilers, but I don't care. Just Canada. Come on, Canada. Do you know it's been 1993
since Montreal won?
A Canadian team has won?
Last time the Leafs won was in 67.
Yeah.
That's just
bananas. Do you know who the team was that won in 1993? Montreal, baby.
That's right. Patrick.
Oh, that was so good. I think that was the same year that the Toronto Blue Jays won. I think it was the year I graduated high school. What a great year for sport. Oh, so good.
Sports. Great year for sports.
I think that they went 2 in a row.
They did. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I was in Toronto at that point. So, it was.
Oh, yeah, you would have been.
Yeah, it was an epic time.
It would have been epic.
Yeah, it was.
So that's a huge connection for us.
Yeah.
And so it can be the most randomest of things. And hopefully you can find, because on the opposite side, I'm a big mountain biker. And man, I tried to get her into it and she just was not interested. Zero connection on that one. So it's not always going to work. And you got to be open to finding things that are not obvious. I did not expect to have such a connection with her over ice hockey, being in Australia. Bananas. But so exploring that, we talk about that in the book, and finding those things with your different kids. If you got more than one kid, find that connection point so that you always have something to connect to, because that's what the kids look for. And I believe that's what builds the strongest relationships. Make sure you are working on you, because it's a sponge. It's an absolute sponge situation. Shit-situation. Sometimes it is a shit-situation, isn't it?
Be a shit-situation.
The shit-situation. Yeah, like just making sure that you have some kind of connection point. And we talk about discipline as well, and how important discipline is, and how kids actually thrive on discipline, to make sure that we are steering them in the right direction. And that right up until they leave home, there has to be some form of discipline. But we're not talking about smacking your kids around or anything. We're just talking about setting boundaries, and then being your word, right? When we set things up and we both have an agreement on it, when there is consequences, there's consequences. But you should hold yourself to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to go back and touch on, first off, that's awesome about what happened with the hockey connection. And, you didn't go into that thinking that was even a possibility, but this is a connection point that could be a lifetime thing, which is amazing. So huge win there. And I think it really speaks to, spending that time and just trying different things, and some things click, some things, won't click. Um, but you said something there, and it made me think about, well, first of all, being intentional about those points of connection. So being intentional, meaning when you find it, uh, you go back to it. And so one of the things that I could tell my kids loved, and I started doing this. Well, we do this naturally, I think, as dads. At least I hope most dads are doing this. But like being involved at bedtime, where from an early age you're involved and you're going in for like the kiss on the cheek, even if they're an infant, or you're there putting them to sleep. Um, it's a beautiful time as a dad to see your child sleeping, and and they're lying in bed, and as they get a little bit older, and you can talk to them a little bit, and tuck them in and read them a book, and snuggle with them a little bit, and then tell them you love them and leave. I had this ritual that I did for, I think, probably the first 10 years. And I still do it, but I don't do it every day. I don't do it at nighttime. That's for sure. Because now my kids are like, we all go to bed and we say, good night, love you. And everyone's going to bed at different times. I'm not tucking them in anymore. 18 years old and 16, 14. Um, but what I used to do was I would go in to their room to say goodnight. And my wife and I both did this. It was this thing like, did you say goodnight to the kids yet? And so we were both doing it. But we did different things. We had different connection point, different ways of connecting with them. And my thing was with words. Um, and I would just pour into them and tell them, like I would I would just tell them how proud I am of them, and try to speak specifically about something they did that day to reinforce something they had done that I thought was like a standout moment that I'd love to reinforce. And you tell them how like smart they are, or whatever it is that's coming up for me. And um, just like imagine that. Imagine every day being poured into by somebody that believes in you and they love you, and they're telling you like these wonderful things. Like eventually you're gonna believe that you're great. And it's definitely better to believe that you're great and that you're capable of doing things than to not, in my opinion. Um,
But with that
and
said, um, I think you're on the same page with me here. Uh, in the schooling system, or in the, school of life, or whatever the case might be, I do think sometimes we've gone too far with it. For example, um, everyone gets the participation medal, even the kids who, are last place. I think that's an issue because it sets them up to think that in life I can come last and still get something, right? I think that's an important point as a separate situation. I think loss and losing in sport, or whatever the case might be, is a super important lesson in life because it builds resilience. All right. So that's where, again, I think as parents, is our job to not wrap them up in cotton wool and complain to the teachers or whatever the case might be, because my daughter came 14th and you didn't give her the accolades of the person who came first, or whatever the case might be. Super important to know. Yeah, you shouldn't, really. But on the opposite side, we need to make our kids realize that coming first does not make them a better person, because you can do anything. And I honestly believe this to a certain degree, and making sure our kids realize this too, is You can do anything you set your mind to, but you can't do everything. Right? To be really, really good at something, you got to devote a whole lot of time and energy to it. And that time and energy can't go into other things. So you can't have everything, but you can have the one thing that you truly want.
Yeah. And really like what it boils down to is the messaging that you're leaving your child. So let's say you experience your child fail at something. Um, the idea is it like like Scott's saying, it's we're not giving them a gold medal like oh yeah you did you know you placed eighth today, um, good job. Meanwhile the child's like aware that they came eighth and they didn't win and they're down on themselves and they feel like a failure and it doesn't match up like their experience and maybe what you're saying and so it is a bit confusing like when you're not the winner and maybe you're being treated like you're a winner. um, but I think the messaging that will leave the child empowered is like if they showed resilience or some sort of character trait that you want to help cultivate within them in that experience of failure, you can be proud of them for that and to use that as an example like in helping to lift them up in in a positive way or giving something for them to latch on to. Maybe they did something that there was like some level of sportsmanship where you noticed like oh after they lost they went up to the winner and congratulated the winner with like an authentic hug and was like happy for them and to really take the time to acknowledge that behavior and essentially I mean what I was doing when I was spending time with them at night and talking to them was building their self-confidence so they believed that they were capable, um, and um, and that I believed in them. I think that's a big
Mm.
part of it too. Is it's amazing what can happen for somebody when they feel like somebody believes in them and is pouring greatness into them and giving them the we'll call them data points. These things that happened that as a child, like, well, as a dad, we see things where it's like it's almost crushing to us because our kid might be crying in despair, and they know that something happened that is upsetting for them, and and they're in that emotion of sadness, and and we're we're just seeing them go through this process of it could be loss, sadness of, for some reason something didn't work out that they tried and they felt like a failure and we're just like sitting there on the sidelines for that moment and they're experiencing that situation and that's part of life that we have to let
That
them
situation?
the situation we have to let them experience those emotions of the challenge, the hard part of life where things don't go our way and um and like as a parent it's like well what do we say to them after that experience that is going to be productive versus destructive because I've had times where I've been at a hockey game for example and the child isn't doing what the parent is expecting the child to do and is letting them know in front of the entire arena and it's super destructive and it's but that could happen if that's happening in the arena it's happening at home and
Pretty likely.
pretty likely it's happening at home. So it's looking at like where's that communication? What's the intent of the communication? And how are they responding to the communication? So like when I would be pouring into my kids, pouring belief into them, telling them I love them, um, and um, and talking about some of the things that they did that day that really stood out to me. Um, I could see this like little, they'd have this little, not a full smile, but you can tell their heart is filling up, and they're feeling it in a positive way. And um, and for one of my kids, I know that her love language is words of what is it? It's
Affirmation.
words of affirmation. Yeah. Um, so yeah, it's um, it's huge. It's huge. We gotta be very intentional about that.
Yeah, and we talked about it at the beginning, but I think it's a good way to maybe wrap up today's. Because again, parenting, we're going to talk about this a lot as time goes on. We just want to give you a brief intro as to what are the chapters in the book, and a big part is figuring out where you are right now as a parent. How are things going? And I think there's two good ways to do that. And I'll end on this and then ask you for some final thoughts. Two ways. Number one is literally, if your kids are that age, ask them, hey, how am I doing as a dad? Rate me on a scale from 1 to 10. And, we talk about this in the book. And if we ask that question, be prepared, because you don't know what's going to come back. And, with kids, they can change their mind on a dime, right? Like you could be a 1 today and a 10 tomorrow, but keep it in mind. And I ask my daughter that often, um, because it's just a good gut check. And if you have a great relationship with them, they're likely going to tell you the truth. And then number two way to do that is go do the Daddius score. Check out where you are on P3 of parenting, right? So that's at daddius.com. Go ahead and click on there and find the Daddius score. And that's where you can sort of give yourself, we talk about the compass, the navigation aspect of parenting and being a dad and being a great, awesome person, is to go ahead and do that Daddius score so you know where you're starting, you know what your coordinates are moving forward.
Definitely. Definitely. I love that series of questions that we've got in the book. Um, those are awesome. So definitely that Daddius project is key for awareness, getting the answers from them as to how we're doing. Um, yeah.
Yeah, so what I was talking about there is inside the book, I think we've got 10 or 20 questions that are connection questions for your kids. So yeah, have any final thoughts on today's P3 parenting?
I think just remembering that parenting, so much of it is an inside job, and the most important work that we do as a dad is the work we do on ourselves. This is why we wrote the book. That's why we have the Daddiest Project workbook. Um, we're committed to we're committed to strong families, where kids are growing up to be strong, confident. Um, they're contributing to their communities, to their families in a positive way, and really make the planet a better place. Um, that's why we're here. And if you're listening today, Dad, and you had value out of this chat, write something in the comments. Let us know. Let us know. Whatever nugget you took away today, or something that you're going to work on, or um, tell a buddy that you found something that's been helping you. Um, yeah, we're certainly not gonna to get these. We're not gonna get these messages out on our own. It's gonna be a word of mouth process, and you know, This is this is our life's work. You know, as dads, this is the greatest project that we're gonna have, you know, in our lifetime. Um, you know, I think dads they wanna hit it out of the park. You know, they want to be a great dad. They want to do great, and and they really, for the most part, aren't investing really any time um, into the development of all the elements that really is going to make us flourish. It's like we talked about before. It's like expecting to just sign up for a marathon or an Ironman for the very first time and do zero training and expect to be amazing. Like this is the longest marathon that we're going to have in our lifetime, and we've done a lot of the work for you, and we've put it out there on a book, and we're hoping that you guys grab that and take from it as much as you can. How about you, Scott?
Yeah, well, I knew a dad once, and I think it's important that we won't get into it now, but he was addicted, and that's a big problem. He was addicted to brake fluid. Weird, eh? Brake fluid, but it wasn't a problem for him because he could stop anytime.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
What do you call a man who's just finished digging?
What?
Doug.
I forgot to tell you, I went on a date last night. And yeah, it went really well. And or no, I wrong delivery. No, it's I had
All
a
right, take
date
two.
last night. I had a date last night, and it was really good. It's really good. I forgot to tell you about it. Today I'm gonna have a fig though.
Yeah, delivery was wrong. I went
Yeah,
on a date. Yeah. I'm gonna swing on a fig today.
yeah, done a fig today. Yeah, but life is kind
Yeah,
of.
very.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
No, I was gonna say very, very cliche, but I'm sure you've heard the idea of if you're on a plane and the masks come down, that they say to put your own mask on first, and then put your kids' masks on. So again, that's the overarching theme that we found from writing this book is that to be the best dad, you got to be the best man and to lead by example. That's we
I
that's
know.
a
It's
whole
it's a,
other that's not
no,
in parenting.
I know. It's not, but it's just something that we should definitely talk about. I think every episode. I think every episode we
That's
should
true.
talk about it. Dad, you are so important. You are unbelievably important, more important than you could ever imagine
Yes.
in your child's life. Like you have such a, and you know, I don't want to put the pressure on too much, but yeah, like your presence in your child's life is so important. The statistics on this are um, off the charts, and and so yeah, you being an active dad in your child's life is really a big part of this very important project. Um, and so, you know, please just take from this that that you, dad, are irreplaceable. You are the most well, you and and your child's birth mother are the two most important people in your child's life. Yeah. So, um, yeah. So with that, glad
Leave
you're
it
on
with
this ride
that.
with us. Yeah. Till next
Woo.
time. All right. And next time we're talking about prosperity. This is This is the topic that I think dads are like, okay, this is the one that, I've been put all my energy into, and I've got this one. This is, or they could be like, I don't have this one, but guaranteed
Very much.
they're putting energy into this one. Almost all dads have a big focus on prosperity. Almost all dads.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how we were.
Whoop, whoop.
That's how we were trained. We were trained this way. And we're going to dive in next episode. So hope to hear you, I'm not going to see you or hear you on it. I'm going to hear you, Scott, but hope you tune in.
No, we're not going to see or hear, but you drop a comment as how asinine that was of a comment.
It's awesome.
Woo. All right.
All
We'll see you next episode.
See you next episode.
That's another episode in the books, dads. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was Dadhood.
True story. For more tools to build your best dad life, grab our book, The Daddius Project, or join us at daddius.com.
And hey, if you learned one thing today, you're already winning. Even if that one thing was never trust a 3-year-old with glitter.
Words to live by. Now go forth and dad like a pro. We're getting a lot more hits on our website.
Really?
And yeah, like every day, 2 or 3. I don't know what's going on.
Is it bots or something?
I don't know. It's like all over. Like I don't see any pattern. It's possible. I don't know.
Yeah, so what shows up? It says like
Gives me the location.
something visited. Just
Yeah.
a person visited from Latvia.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like somebody from Ireland.
Obviously not a bot. Latvia. We've got tons of people listen to us from Latvia.
Yeah.
What kind of language is in Latvia? I'm kind of enjoying saying Latvia.
Latvia. Yeah, no idea.
No, not Latvia. Latvia. Latvia.
Latvia.
Latvia. I sound kind of German there. Latvia. I have no idea. Latvia. Is it Latvian? What are they? I'm going to look it up.
Get up.
Yeah, I will.
Me.
What is the official language of Latvia? Latvia. Latvian. I was right. Latvian. Okay. But there's 2 Latvians. Modern Latvian is spoken in the West, and Latgalian is spoken in the East. The 2 languages are mutually intelligible, but Latgalian uses some older words and phrases not found in modern Latvian. So I guarantee now we have got a ton of people who listen from Latvia. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So many. So many.